these are boulders of obsidian, which, if you ask me, is really cool because it's got the moss growing on it. You see that? Just big boulders of volcanic glass. Every rock that you see sticking out of here is a big boulder. Let's go over here. Easier for you to picture. See, these have lichens and stuff growing on them, but that is just gobs of obsidian. But we are on our way out, and I figured this is always a good place to start. Some of these are just, you could go through here all day long and just find the craziest mixes of colors. But I was more impressed by the overall, just the scope and scale of how it piles up on this side of the volcano. You're on the side of the Mount Konocti volcanic field. And yeah, these are just decomposing boulders of obsidian everywhere you look, but covered in moss. So I just thought that that was really cool. Razor sharp. Hardly ever see it under forest with the moss all over it. So very aesthetic. Okay, we're gonna move on down the road, as often we do, and I will see you there. Okay, we are in another creek bed here. The truck's up on the road. Look at this. It's like rhyolite almost going into the andesite. And it's got the California diamond clusters in it. Look how big that patch is. But little pieces in there. But still big pockets. That's pretty cool. Big chunks of it off going down the creek. And yeah, it looks like rhyolite, andesite, tuff, and then Franciscan sandstones all mixed in. As far as I can see, meaning sedimentary sandstones and all the volcanic stuff that comes out of volcanoes. This is where I have got us to. Look at those rocks. We are out in the vast expanses of California, in the mountains. Very crazy windy, very geologic zone. You can see it's also been burnt, and there's just a scattering of houses off in the distance, but almost like a little foot trail already leading here. So wow, look at the exposed serpentine and then the minerals in it. Look at those shelves of, who knows what that is. Some sort of white mineral that leaked into the crevices, and everything else is slid away. So I came upon a fence line and brand new shiny no trespassing signs, and it's spring in California, so all the waterways, creeks, tributaries in California are public, but sometimes they're landlocked, and there's ways that you can go about gaining access through legal battles and all that. But in the meantime, it's best to just look for the zones where it's not an argued issue. You know, that's generally what I aim for. See it? Look at the cave entrance. right underneath that big old slab of something, and then look where it is. It's like right in the middle of everything, the heart of the stronghold. Don't you want to know? Not today. Well, here's a perfect example. No, properties anywhere around it where there's a house or anyone who cares. Huge pull out. No fences, no signs. The ranchers that were out here didn't ever need to try and control the raging creek with fences, so they let it go. And whoever since has let it go also. So that's a good thing. One thing that I will say, and I try and keep negativity out of the channel as much as I can, is that with the growing population of California, which has doubled and tripled, you gotta realize that those aren't just all people being born. A large percentage of those people are actually moving into the state. And I know that all the laws in the states are different, and that's the beautiful part about the country that I live in, is there's so many different options for areas, and for different beliefs. That's why we made this country, was so everybody could go to a spot where they were free to be themselves. So in California, for a very long time, all of the creeks have been public. And in other states where the waterways are not public and people actually own, like this property owner would own to the center of the creek, and that property owner would own to the center of the creek, it's not like that here. This is public, and it's actually public up to the high water mark. So in spots like this, where you have a road and which is public, and then a public creek, there's no point for anyone to try and own this 2 foot, but constantly you have people that do, and it can be because of their activities going on the other side of the creek. My only recommendation to them would be do what the ranchers and this land has been owned for millenniums, but the Spanish started land granting stuff and drawing up official properties and stuff 200 years ago, and their lines are up out of the creek areas that are dynamic and where fences get destroyed and stuff anyway. So in California, it's so rough and so rugged, the creeks were already just kind of like neutral zones. And beyond that, then, as our population grew, we actually put into our state constitution and our legislation all sorts of laws giving the rights of passage to the public, for all public waterways, for all creeks. It's everything. It's all the beaches of California, all of the waterways, all of the rivers, all the tributaries, the whole deal. That being said, I always like to remind people, when you are flexing your liberties, don't be obnoxious about it. Try and put yourself in the shoes of the other people, so give their homes some space. I don't go crawling through people's backyards if I can avoid it, so yeah, everything in moderation. We are down here on this beautiful creek. There's a lot of minerals going on in it. What are you? Looks like a piece of serpentine, maybe, with a calcification or something all over it. Lots of chance for fossils. It's the right type of stuff. And this whole mountain is serpentine. You can see the blue, smooth sides of it. The thing about serpentine is it's actually very important. The water vapor that's trapped inside of that rock, as it slides down to within, they say it's about, I think, 100 to 200 miles of subduction, meaning, where the Earth, the Pacific plate, in this case, is sliding underneath the American continent, and at a certain depth, you know, it starts melting again and turning into lava. The serpentine that was created in that crack out in the middle of the ocean that's traveled along still has the water trapped in it in a silicate form, and that literally is so hot that it melts the surrounding rocks, and that's what allows the lava to travel up. And so the ring of fire, as you know it, is where the plates are sliding underneath the other plates, so where the ocean plate is sliding in, and it's getting to a deep enough layer to where it's bubbling up and exploding out of that and forming what we call volcanoes. So those are literally the pop-up points of where the plate is sliding underneath and melting. And the mass majority of melting occurs from this serpentine you know, shedding its water as it gets down to depth, and then that heat that it releases melts the surrounding rocks and adds to the lava heading up. I hope that makes sense. I've tried to explain that a couple of times. I've cut it out of videos when I was fumbling too much. See, this is a rhyolite, you know, an ash flow, but it's gone. It's got a lot of silicate to it, so it hasn't turned into obsidian, which is basically the same thing. It's just, you know, volcanic glasses, but its impurities and stuff are more greens and blues, and so this creek is kind of mysterious here. It's bubbling all over. I'm thinking that all this water I see coming out of the slope is actually creating springs. Because it's not just the rapids here, which are beautiful, but if you look, try and capture some, there's actual bubbles rising up all over here from underneath the water. And I don't think they're clams, I think that this is a spring. So we are in a canyon that has mineral resorts and stuff in it. Wow! Wow! Look at that. You see that? That is an old cement. Wow. Why would that be here? Maybe, I guess this is a new road made with tractors where they could do the cuts and, you know, bulldoze the road. Maybe the old road leading up the canyon is a deep, steep canyon. Maybe it meandered way closer to the creek. I mean, we found this by noticing that there's bubbles bubbling up. Look right there. See that? So that's not decomposing material trapped or bubbling. I mean, that's non-stop bubbling. And there's about 10 of them here. There's one right underneath us. So we're in a heavily volcanic zone. We are in one of the most active volcanic zones right here underneath our feet in all of California. It's actually one of the highest threat zones that you could be in California as far as eruptions and lavas and stuff. So, and you can see that from the stacked crags and everything around us. But that is exceptional because for some reason it's underwater now. It's by all these springs. I actually see a row of big rocks here. We're in it. Look how big this river is. Okay, and if you see the logs and stuff stuck in the trees, then you know that this rages. This rages along here. So, oh, thought that was a button. Woo! Okay, they're getting me going. But for some reason, look where that is. So I guess a whole bunch of material could have pushed down and buried the old little road track that went through here, switched stuff up because it is dynamic. It's meandered back and forth, and then changed the elevation on this somehow to where this old trough that was on the side. And maybe at one point the road, you know, was hugging this side of the road. You never know. And was down lower. I don't know. I'm having a hard time making sense of why there is a very old looking cord. This see that, right? That's, it's cement. But I mean, these plants have grown on top of it. Oh, but look where it is. You see the iron down here? Can you see this? That's what this is. It's an old spring box, which is really cool. So this could actually make a lot of sense because we're here at the end of winter where this is still flowing, and this probably drops way down, and you can see that row of rocks there. That might have actually been put there to kind of hold this off. So this might be the old road, and this is just where you came down to get water. You had to have a spot to water your horses and to draw from. So this might go totally bone dry. I know that would be hard to believe, but that's how California is. We get all of our water, all of our melt, and then it moves on by, and then these can be bone dry. So they're like washes when they're this steep and up in the hills, but they maintain their depth for a while. Well, there must be some really important minerals in this. So I know that humans often, you know, go to the mineral water in search of medicine and stuff, but you see this? This is all honeybees. They're swarming on it. They're nowhere else. This is a little ways down from the spring box, which is right there. It's the same spring coming out of here. You can see by the orange in the water. And look at the honeybees. And I mean, they have the whole creek to drink from. There's literally 1,000 honeybees right here. I'm gonna stoop down in amongst them and hope that nobody stings me. So they're here gathering some sort of, you can see the minerals built up on the rocks. Look at them. The secret honeybee spring. I wonder how many thousands of years they've been coming to this spot. There's actually so many animal prints all around here too. It is just, those are not people prints, those are all animal prints. Just stompings and stompings. They've beaten down all of this grass around here. Look, the spring's coming out down here too, and there's just as many bees in each of these spots. That's really cool. Whatever is in this little patch of water, they fly from all over to come here and drink this spring. Makes me want to scoop it up and drink it. I mean, bees usually know what the good stuff is. Ooh, look at these nettles. These are actually a very edible plant. They'll sting you, but look how lush those are. Those are so healthy. That's awesome. Those are one of my favorite things to boil up and eat. Yeah, this is like an animal highway. I feel like we found the secret spot. Yeah, I feel like that hole was engineered by people. And the rocks put in here to hold the sand back. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, back to our exploring. How many little footprints there are here everywhere. Probably like a mineral lick where they can all come and eat a little bit of the soil and get everything that they need for their vitamins and stuff. I'll let you know when we're on to anything else good. We are running out of gravel bar here, so I'm going to move on down the road. Just got this massive chunk of jasper. I have a lot of jasper. I never want to discourage you from collecting. I have so much jasper. I have a whole little building project that I'm doing, trying to finish a wall at home. And I think I might just leave that right there, but we can appreciate its colors and stuff. Let's get it wet. I have this very same type and these color mixes in different piles in my yard right now that I have not yet done something with. So that's kind of how I keep from being a hoarder, is that I make them into something or store them in a pretty way. You know, line fountains or make real rock stack areas in the yard, that type of thing. I'm going to leave some of these bigger specimens behind, but still show you the colors in that. I hope that's picking up. Oh yeah. Yeah, this whole section of the creek here has some cool mixes to it. That's actually I don't know if you can pick up the shine on there. It's got luster to it. Very opaly, rhyolite, plastic feeling. There's another. Set that there. This must be the zone. This one I'm having a hard time showing you the beauty. Same thing with this, they're just hard mixes. And you have, oh, this is tough going into like rhyolite or almost andesite hardness here. So this is the same thing. These are all just ash, which is like silicates. And then depending on the heat and the pressure, you know, it turns into different forms of stones. And its impurities dictate its colors. A lot of crazy minerals here though. Just kind of exploring my way through layers of mud. Oh, I knew there was going to be fossils in that. Get all the little sticks and stuff, the little impressions. These are all little bits of an organic shore. You see that? They're fine, but they're obvious. Yeah, it's good stuff. Put down a bunch of little layers. Where there was organic stuff happening, look at these big pieces of cement right here with rebar in them. So we know that there might have been way more going on with where we are right now than we think. And that's all that's left. Some of this almost looking like petrified wood, but I think it's just tough, gone to rhyolite with just very fine little layers to it. So it does not strike me as a tree, and if a tree struck me it would probably hurt. This is one of those areas where the ash and the volcanic rocks made so many different things. That a lot of this, as you start to set this next to this, next to this, and start trying to describe to somebody what andesite is compared to rhyolite, that's why they ended up just coming up with the overall classification of all of these as felsite. So It's less common in use these days, but yeah, these are felsite. That's what I learned in the book. You can see banding in that. Well, it's just all different types of lavas and ash, basically, so I don't drive you crazy with classification, and that's why they themselves said it's so hard to describe it and classify it in the field sometimes, because it's just literally so close to each other in likeness that they just came up with felsite. Okay, I'm crossing the road going back to the car, and we will see if there is anything else along this wonderful little path that we are on. It's good to be 6 foot tall. I can't help it, I got the fever. Let's go gold mining. I just got the shovel and our sluice. I wanted to go down to this little spot here, and if you look, we're down to bedrock. You see that? That's just bedrock that's flowing over. And beyond that, a deep pool. I think we can kind of get around it up here and creep down, and then you see that layer of boulders there? Trapped underneath all this new stuff is this whole layer of the creek, the river, where it was at one point. And we can get to the bottom of it. That was the bedrock. You could see the line there, and then where the riverbed sat. Now it has gone lower down in, and it's left that little ledge. But usually you'd have to move all of those rocks if you went out into a regular riverbed to get down to the stuff. And look how deep it could be. That could be like 7 foot of huge boulders. So we're gonna go right underneath those bottom boulders, scrape out some stuff carefully so we don't die, and pin it. That is beautiful. And look at the bedrock bottom. If there's even a trace of gold in this, we'll come back and do all of these crevices. Look at that. But here we are. See what I'm stepping in? Trying not to die from it. But we're gonna take the stuff under the bottom boulders and look through it. Here's like the perfect little working station here. I really love to dig out that crevice. Well, listen, we did get some black sand out of this. There's not a speck of color in there though. And that's okay. It could be 10 feet that way. We'd have to do 100 pans out of this creek, up and down it, to figure out if it was barren or not, but what it did give us was a chance to come out to this beautiful spot and scratch yet another lottery ticket. That's how I like to think of things. It's you know, each thing is a chance, you know. What if there had been, you know, 13 pickers in that pan, and you'd be like, wow, we just struck onto a great spot. You know, maybe the bottom of that. So you got to get out there and try your chances to have your luck come in and meet you halfway. And the worst case scenario, you end up somewhere like this.